Hey guys, and welcome to the introductory of chemistry. So, what is chemistry? Well, simply, chemistry is defined as a composition of matter that undergoes multiple changes. Matter, remember, is anything that has mass and takes up space. So we have four examples of matter that we commonly refer to as solids, liquids, and gases. Those are the states that matter comes into. And so, what are some examples of chemistry in matter? Well, your simple flame, we have propane gas that is ignited in a chemical reaction known as combustion to create this beautiful flame that we would cook our food on. And we can really look at things in two ways, a macroscopic and a microscopic. Macro refers to anything that we can physically touch, see, smell. You can wave your hands and feel air particles hit them. And then micro means small. So remember, macro is a large scope in which you see, and micro is a small scope. Micro refers to like the individual atoms. These are the particles that make up the substances that we see. And so sometimes we kind of have a misconception. So here's three different things. Our top is our heated water, room temperature water, and chilled water. This is what you would physically see within a glass or in a pot on a stove. And so the physical seeing of that and touching of that is the macroscopic. But on a microscopic level, those particles are actually moving quite a bit differently. As we heat the particles, they move further apart from each other and they move quite a bit faster. And as we cool the particles, they actually become closer together and they condense and form a solid. And so this all started by understanding a process called alchemy. Alchemy is not something that is used today, but alchemy, it was the basis to chemistry. Alchemy was kind of a combination of philosophy and science. Both looked at the practical aspect of things and like the mystical. Because remember, when we're talking about alchemists, these are people that didn't always know what everything was. We didn't know elements. So they actually thought the first four elements were fire, water, air, and earth. These are things that you could see. The fifth element they thought of as spirits, but we're not going to refer to that because they believed in the soul, which we can't measure with chemistry. So these are the four things that they thought. These were the four elements that they found and thought of. The one thing that's really great about alchemists is they did lay a lot of groundwork for things we do today. So they did a lot of experimentations and they documented that experimentation. Big thing in chemistry, we document everything. Because you need to know why a reaction happens. You write down your observations that occur during that. And so one of the things that they're really quite famous for, alchemists are, is the invention of gunpowder. Yeah, the thing that allows for us to fire firearms. So gunpowder was not just used in firearms, but fireworks. So it became a very useful tool that alchemists developed. And again, they wrote down a lot of this process, and then chemists still write down what they do today so that they can combine those. So we have really we break chemistry up into two major things. We have pure chemistry and applied chemistry. So pure chemistry is just for a greater understanding of things. It doesn't always lead to a direct application. And then we have applied chemistry. Applied chemistry is when you look at a practical or specific goal. This has real life application to it. Now, we are saying pure chemistry and applied chemistry, but we could say pure science and applied science as well. And so let's look at this a little bit different. So when we look at pure science or pure chemistry, we have a question. So we have knowledge and we're asking a question based on that knowledge. And then we find the answer to that question based on other people's research. With applied, you will have an invention that is usually based off some type of observation. So we still have that question, observation, knowledge, invention. It's kind of going together. But with the applied science, we're actually doing the study or the experimentation to get to that. And so let's look at an example. So when we say a pure science or pure chemistry, scientists study human vision to learn how an eye works. They're just gathering that information. There's no real new relationships. We're just kind of looking at it. We're gathering the information or the discovery of new relationships or facts. We're just studying how human vision works. That's pure science. And so applied science would be something a little different. Scientists invent a motion pictures, eyeglasses, and contact lenses. We can even put LASIK surgery in there. So those are applied sciences. They have a practical use of the scientific information. It's not gathering information for information's sake, but we're actually creating something from that information that we gathered or applying it to something. So chemistry is broken up into 5 disciplines. Now, pure and applied chemistry can be used in all of these disciplines. But let's look at the first one. So physical. Let's get physical. Okay, I'm not a singer. All right, so physical chemistry, we're actually looking at the physical aspect of it, what's being created. We're doing chemistry here, just as these 2 gentlemen are sitting in a lab doing chemistry. And when we look at this, we also see organic chemistry. Now, organic chemistry is a very common branch of chemistry. If you're going into anything in the medical field, you're going to have to take organic chemistry in college. Organic chemistry is the study of carbon and all carbon-based compounds and how they interact. It's pretty cool. So when we talk about inorganic chemistry, you got it. It's stuff that isn't carbon-based. Sulfuric acid would be a great example of a non-carbon-based molecule. Sulfuric acid is found commonly in batteries, and it can be very corrosive. We also see like hydrochloric acid, which we'll use a lot this year, would be an example of inorganic chemistry. This year, we're going to cover both organic and inorganic, but we're going to focus a lot on inorganic chemistry and some of the basic reactions, a little bit more than organic chemistry. And the simpler molecules for organic chemistry are what we're going to use. And then we have analytical chemistry. Analytical is kind of looking at the extraction, identification, and the quantitation of a sample. So if you have ever watched a show where the police find a little bag of white powder and they send it to the lab for identification of the white powder, those are analytical chemists. Not only do analytical chemists do things like identification, that would be our forensic science. They do environmental analysis, which means they take soil samples and they look and see what's composed in your soil. They do nanotechnology stuff. They have Human Genome Project, which looks at the entire genome of an organism. There's so many applications for analytical chemistry, but basically you're looking and you're taking a compound and you're breaking it down so you can see the individual microscopic portions of that particle. And last but not least, we also have biochemistry. Oh, wait, proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids. Oh, those are the 4 biomolecules found within the human body. And how they interact within our body, well, that's biochemistry. So this is a lot of biology stuff. And we've already talked about proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, and nucleic acids within the field of biology. And then advanced biology goes through that even further. So these are what you're looking at here. So what about chemistry in the world today? Well, chemistry is always changing. One of the things that we know is really important is energy within chemistry. And so all different forms of energy come from types of chemistry. So we have potential energy and kinetic energy. Potential is energy at rest. Kinetic energy is energy in motion. We have nuclear energy, which comes from our fission within a star. We can also do that within a nuclear reactor. We can also have nuclear fusion, which is when they come together. We have light, electrical energy, magnetic energy, chemical energy, thermal energy, all are different types of energy that can be found within each other. And then we also use chemistry in what we call pharmaceuticals. This is known as medicine. So pharmaceuticals are the creation of synthetic drugs to allow for us to treat diseases. And so that's really important that we do this. These are able to recreate biomolecules that our body doesn't make, to killing bacteria, if we have to take things like penicillin. And so these are really important that in chemists, pharmacy is a really big portion of that. We also are able to create materials. These are all synthetic materials in this picture. A lot of them are petro-based or plastics. Plastics are synthetic materials that we make from petroleum products. We're also able to create synthetic fibers. Anything in nature that we recreate within a lab is a material that we can create through chemistry. The environment is a little bit easier though. Oh, this probably looks familiar from biology. Yes, every cycle that we have within the environment is part of environmental chemistry. Our phosphorus cycle, our nitrogen cycle, our oxygen carbon cycle, all those are in our environmental chemistry. Super important to know that. Chemistry in agriculture, though, is one thing that in South Dakota we find is quite necessary. And so you don't think of chemistry being a big part of agriculture, but it is a huge part of agriculture. Everything from making fertilizers that help our gardens to grow better, herbicides, which kill unwanted broadleaf pests like dandelions, to pesticides, which kill those nasty bugs that eat our plants. Plants are a little bit different than all other creatures. Plants do not have an immune system, so if they would happen to get a disease and it's not treated through a application of some type of medication, that organism would die. And because we live in South Dakota, our agriculture, our economy is based quite dramatically on being good plant parents. And so we want to make sure that chemistry is really important. So agronomists do a really nice job of not only knowing what do our soils are composed of, but what fertilizers we need to add, what nutrients to the soil, to when should we spray for weeds or pests, and we worry about things like drift so it doesn't kill off other crops. All these are important factors when we're talking about